Good morning, everybody. We've almost made it to Friday. What is this, baby Friday, right? It is Thursday. Please tell me it's not Thursday. It is Thursday. This week flew by. It flew by. Let's see who's in here. First off, can you hear me okay? You know, sometimes the first few seconds of the show sound like I'm underwater, but I got a mic check from our special guest, Michael Reynolds. Yes, Friday Eve. Hello, Sunshine Cowgirl. Hi, Eddie. Just Me's here. Carla Gentry. Hello, Christina said, sounds great. I never get that. Let's just keep that in our minds. Sounds great. All right, about a month ago, we covered the case, and we have a Facebook group. A lot of you are in the Facebook group for Michelle Reynolds. She's still missing, everyone. I've been talking to her husband, Michael, and he's going to fill us in on a lot of things. You're going to be really surprised as to everything that's been going on behind the scenes to find Michelle. We're going to talk about the day she disappeared, all the search efforts that have gone on thus far, and what we need to do going forward as far as sharing. I'm going to put her missing flyer up right now. It's in the group, and I have it in the Crime Lines and Lies regular Facebook group. There's Michelle. Now, this is the one from Texas EquiSearch. So you can screenshot that. I'll get you a better copy. I'll have one in the Discord room because we have a specific room just for Michelle Reynolds. I can email it to you, whatever's clear. But if that's clear enough for you, click away. Click away. So to get us back up to speed, a little reminder, I'm going to play the clip that I played a few weeks ago with our friend Tim Miller, where he's talking about, this was at the point where they had the helicopters going over the Mississippi. We were all talking about how did she get to New Orleans? She just drove to New Orleans? She did. She did. Michael's going to talk to us. Basically, every question we've had, he's got the answer. So let's go through the clip. We're going to bring up Michael. Hold on one moment.
It's now surveillance video of a missing teacher from Alvin ISD after her car was found in New Orleans.
Fox 26's Dominique Keith live in Alvin with this update.
Yeah, Michelle Reynolds is a teacher here at Fairview Junior High School in Alvin. She's been missing since Thursday. Her car has since been discovered there in Louisiana. And now what's believed to be surveillance video of her there in New Orleans on Friday getting out of her car. That surveillance video has now surfaced. This video from a New Orleans business is giving updated information about 48-year-old Alvin ISD teacher Michelle Reynolds after her family last saw her in the Houston area Thursday.
We did get surveillance of her actually parking her car in St. Peter Street at 12:01 Friday afternoon, and then kind of what direction she was walking. I know that St. Peter Street is pretty close to the Mississippi River.
Shortly after receiving word about the new video, Texas EquiSearch put a helicopter in the air searching the banks of the Mississippi and the river itself for any sign of the missing mother.
We're going to be flying probably about 20 miles down the river, low flying, and we've had a lot of success, recovering drowning victims with the helicopter.
Michael Reynolds told me the New Orleans company gave him the surveillance video after his wife's gray Lexus was found near there. The Fairview Junior High school teacher is said to be perhaps not in her normal mental state.
Hopefully she's confused and she's wandering around over there and somebody's going to see her and we're going to get her back safe. I mean, that's certainly the goal.
Now, Michelle Reynolds' purse, along with her license, credit cards, and her cell phone, were all found inside her vehicle. Now, Mr. Reynolds says they are still canvassing businesses there in New Orleans, trying to find better surveillance video of her. If you have any information about where the missing teacher is, Brazoria County Sheriff's investigators and New Orleans police detectives want to hear from you. Reporting live in Alvin, I'm Damalie Keith, Fox 26 News.
The case of a woman missing out of Texas is now
All right. It tried to replay. So that's where we left off a few weeks ago. Hello, Lisa. Lisa said the Mississippi River is low right now. So is the Arkansas River. I could seriously just walk across it. Not like Jesus, just regular brooks. I could just walk straight across it. Hello, Diane. And as you guys saw, I started a little bit early because Mike got someone to cover one of his classes so he could be here with us because this is really, really important. We've got to get Michelle's name out there way more than it is. Yes, Joanne, we have certainly been praying. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Michael Reynolds. He is Michelle's husband. Hello. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much for having me, Brooks. I really appreciate it. Any help to find Michelle is greatly appreciated by me and my family. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Had I known that you were okay to come on a channel, well, I think I did. I sent you a Facebook request and a message, but you were telling me earlier that you don't really do social media.
I really don't. I have started just because of the events that have occurred. But generally, Michelle would post all the information about our family, our kids, our events, all of our stuff on social media. And I just kind of went along for the ride. So I didn't use it often, but I have started to use it a lot more just because of what's going on.
And you've also gotten a taste of, well, what we go through. Of course, yours is on a totally different spectrum of how people use social media for very, very bad things.
Yeah.
They have messaged you some extremely extreme things. I know you're a teacher and you're not going to, that's not a sentence, but a proper sentence. So yeah, guys, he's been getting messages. If you want to talk about that, Michael.
Well, a lot of the messages are helpful, and you get, shots. Is this Michelle? Is this Michelle? Pictures of people in waiting rooms down the street, and just to confirm whether it's her or not, they send the information in. But of course, we get, the people that, we have your wife, or we're going to ransom her. We're going to, if you don't send us $3,500, we're going to execute her. We get a lot of that stuff, and I just call their bluff on it and move on. I don't have time for that, right? I don't have time to worry about those people. Those people have issues of their own that I have nothing to do with, or really don't care. I just ignore it and move forward. I try not to let my kids see any of that stuff, obviously, but I just move forward. It doesn't help me. It doesn't hurt me. I just move forward. There's nothing else I can do I can't do anything about people like that.
No, not at all. But are the police aware that that's going on?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So whenever I get messages like that, I have a detective named Robert Gonzalez with the Brazoria County Sheriff's Department that I send him any information, whether it's credible or not. I send it to him and he checks up on it. So, and also he shares that information with the Louisiana State Police. So Brazoria County Sheriff's Department plus the Louisiana State Police are the ones really in control of the investigation.
let's talk about it. Let's talk about the investigation and why there is an investigation. So let's start with the day that she went missing. If you want to walk us through that.
Sure. So the morning of September 22nd, Michelle was in an outpatient program for mental health reasons. And she went to the morning session. She was taking notes. She was participating. She had been in the outpatient program for about 3 weeks after being in a hospital, a behavioral hospital, for about 10 days. And this is our third attempt. We've been dealing with this for mental health issues for better part of a decade. She was home. She was doing her work. She was contemplating, reflecting, doing all her notes. Then had a lunch break. My daughter was home. She told my daughter she was going to go get something to eat and left. And that's the last time we saw her. So that was September 22nd, around 12:30 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She was picked up on camera through the investigators, kind of on her way to Interstate 10, about 1:45 that afternoon. We also picked her up on the highway going to Baton Rouge along the way. We think she stayed in Baton Rouge or somewhere close to Baton Rouge the night of the 23rd, but there were no charges on the card. There's no proof that she stayed in Baton Rouge, but you know, the license plates that they have cameras on the highways that pick up license plates. It stopped, and so she stopped somewhere near Baton Rouge. On the 24th, the morning of the 24th, she drove to New Orleans, and like Tim said on the intro video, she arrived there about noon at the corner of St. Peter's and St. Joseph's. We didn't know she was there at the time, but I used a Lexus app to ping the car. I actually told Lexus that the car was stolen, so they would ping it for me because they wouldn't do it any other way.
Really?
Yeah. So I pinged the car and got a location, and then drove to New Orleans. Found her car Sunday morning about 3 a.m. On the corner of St. Peter's and St. Joseph's. We had already called in OPD, and they didn't find anything. They said they looked around the area, but we kind of drove straight to it almost. So we found the car. I was able to open the car, and inside the car found her wallet with her ID, her debit card, her phone was in the car. And like, it was disheveled a little bit. It looked like she may have slept in the back seat of the car. Maybe that's where she was the day before, maybe near Baton Rouge. And then later that day, we have video of her walking down Constant Street. Well, we have the video of her getting out of the car. So we knew it was her that got out of the car. That was the first thing we needed to know, right? Is she by herself? Did someone take her? Is someone with her? But no, she was driving by herself, got out of the car, went across the street, up St. Joseph's to Constant Street. And we found video of her on Constant Street from the World War II Museum. That was Sunday or September the 24th. That was in the afternoon. And then she continued down Constant Street to a bar called the Rusty Nail. They let her use the bathroom. They let her she looked like she washed her face. She put her hair up. They gave her a glass of water. And we do have video of her at the Rusty Nail. Then she walked across the street, which is, they call it Calliope Street. And that's kind of where the bridge is that goes over the Mississippi River. And there's a lot of tent encampments and homeless people that live under the Calliope Bridge. She befriended a couple of people, an older couple that were living there in a tent. They allowed her to sleep in the tent that night with them. They had some cheese and crackers and some water. And then the next morning she got up and walked down Calliope towards, I guess that would be east towards the Mississippi River. And they say that she took a right on Chapatula Street. They yelled her name. She didn't turn around. And that's the last time they saw her.
So, but this is the homeless couple, right?
This is the homeless couple. So we can't verify that because the traffic cameras at the intersection which were, I guess, purchased by Homeland Security. They are not working because of a storm that occurred in New Orleans. They still haven't been fixed. So a lot of the cameras that are supplied by Homeland Security are not available to check the video.
Did they mention her state of mind, what they talked about?
She had a very blank look on her face. They asked her what her name was. She just said Michelle. They asked where she's from. She just said around. She also changed shirts. When they got up to go get some water, the people that living under the tent, under the bridge, she took off the shirt that's in the picture and this intro. And she's changed into a black shirt and left her shirt there. And we do have that shirt. The police have it as evidence. We used dogs to try to get a scent, but we didn't get any hits.
So a lot of people have had questions about, well, one, money. Does she have money with her?
So we check. We have a joint account. No money was taken out of that account. She does have another account that she has. Then we had the police check that, and she didn't withdraw any money. So a couple of days before, we took some money out because we're going to get some new tires for her Lexus. So she may have had about $200 on her, which, that's it. She wouldn't have any more than $200. No debit card. She hasn't had any transactions. So we don't think if she had much money, it probably wasn't more than a couple $100.
And a lot of people are asking, are you going to hire a private investigator?
Well, I've signed a consent with Brazoria County Sheriff's Department to share all the information with a private investigator out of New Orleans. The private investigator went through all the notes. He went through everything that we, Michelle's brother, Chris, and I have uncovered, plus Brazoria County and Louisiana State Police. And after looking through all the notes and all the investigative information, he told us that, hey, there's nothing that he can do. So he said, I could take your money, but I'm not going to be able to follow anything because what y'all have done already is where I would start. So we don't have any more information past, the afternoon or the morning of the 25th, and that's suspect information to go on. So he didn't really have anything to go on. So he told us that he didn't have anything to go on. He was very honest with us, and we appreciated that, of course.
And another question that comes up quite a bit is, okay, so the private investigator, he said, there's nothing more. Will you explain that? The homeless shelters, how often are they checked?
Well, there's a homeless network there. So when you go to a homeless shelter or a mission for feeding, they take the names and they have a database, and the database they share with all the other missions and homeless shelters. So she is in that database. We camped out at different missions where the homeless get food, where they supposedly saw her, but none of the places that we checked had any record of Michelle actually being in those locations. So we checked all the missions, all the homeless shelters, the women's shelters, all the hospitals, the behavioral hospitals, you name it, we've checked it. Bus station, Amtrak, just walking the streets. Her brother and I spent 9, 10, 11 days down there, 24 hours a day on shifts, going through the homeless encampments, looking for her. We exhausted our options in New Orleans. We think we've checked everything possible. And I probably haven't mentioned everything that we've checked because it's a pretty long list. The library, they had footage of her at the library. So we kind of staked out the library because they have a restroom that people are allowed to use that are homeless. She's Christian, so they have these churches or these preachers that come out and feed the homeless and give a sermon in the park. So we'd hang around for the sermons. we've checked all the churches. We've checked, we've checked everything that we know to check.
Sheila had a question. She said, has anybody from her group, because you said she was in group therapy, recently dropped out or around that time?
Well, HIPAA prevents any information being shared about other patients. So there's no way to know that. HIPAA is a very strong law. I do have consent for Michelle's medical records. And so I can get all the information from the behavioral hospital for Michelle, but you cannot receive any information about any other patients in any sort of way, not even their name, much less if they were present or not.
Okay, Christina said that she has sent letters to most of the churches down there, and she asked Tulane University to post flyers. Would it scare Michelle to see her flyers posted around New Orleans, because they're pretty much out there?
Oh yeah, there's flyers everywhere. So, part of Michelle's mental health history deals with acute psychosis. So when you undergo acute psychosis, it creates lots of paranoia. So part of the treatment that we've worked on over the last decade is what's real and what's not real, and these paranoid senses. So if she did see her picture on the news or flyers, that may encourage her to hide because of the paranoia that happens with psychosis.
And this has happened before. I don't want to get too much into the history, but of course, there's a lot for people to help you, they're trying to get an understanding. This isn't something that just came on. This is something that you've dealt with for quite a while.
Yes, ma'am. So close to 8 years ago, Michelle we didn't really know what was going on at the time. Now that I look back at it, I can see the evidence of mental health issues. But she was in a behavioral hospital 8-9 years ago. That was our first indication that she was having some mental health issues. And she had acute psychosis, and she was thinking that the smoke detector had a light on it, and that was a camera, things like that. Just very, very paranoid. And so she went through some inpatient and outpatient treatment at that time. They put her on some medications. She adjusted well to those medications and went back to work. She had to take a little time off, but she went back to work and was a very effective teacher. She's an amazing teacher. And she was able to get back to it. 3 years later, 2.5 years later, she had another event that occurred, had to go back to the behavioral hospital to get some help. Again, she stayed in for 7 to 10 days. She was an outpatient for about 3 weeks. She was able to recover. She was able to get back to work again and become an effective teacher, parent, wife, everything back to pretty much normal. And then this last event, she was having some severe depression, and she, suicidal ideation and that sort of thing. So I recognized it pretty quickly and got her to the emergency room. We got her to a behavioral hospital that we were familiar with. And then she started the outpatient program. One of the issues with this is one of the medications they switched her to was an atypical antipsychotic, and she had never been on an atypical antipsychotic before. And I believe that's what it leads to risky behavior. And it also leads to amplifying whatever feelings or whatever thoughts are going through her head. So that was a major concern. I think she was on this medication, which created this manic spree. And I think she just went for a drive and ended up in New Orleans and got lost. And then once the medicine wore off, I think the psychosis kicked back in. Now, I'm not her physician. I am not her mental health expert, but I know Michelle very well. And obviously, and she doesn't leave. She loves our kids. She loves our family. She loves teaching. She loves these things. I just really feel that this medication that she took kind of pushed her over the edge, and that's what led to her missing.
A lot of people have noticed in the picture, the one that's up on the thumbnail at the top of the right-hand side, the way I'm facing it, her face is drooping just a little bit. Is that just from the camera, or did you notice any changes in her?
Yeah, we noticed that as well. And, one of the side effects of the medication that she's on might be that you could have a stroke. And when we saw her face like that, and I don't know if she's kind of smirking and pulling up one side of her mouth, and it just happens to be that picture, or if there's some other medical issues that cause that, because it does look like her face is drooping. And you can see, if you see the normal picture of Michelle where she's all done up, she doesn't look like that. But we have discussed that as well. But there's no way to know if she was just moving her mouth at the time, or if she had some type of stroke or some type of issue that dealt with the medication.
Okay. Because that scares a lot of people. But she doesn't have, did she take any medication with her? Is her medication still with you?
She did not take any with her. She left all her medication. When I went to New Orleans, I brought it with me in case we found her. I could give her some medication, but she left all of her meds at home.
Okay, where Summer said medication can make your mouth do that also. And you said she's never just done this before. She's never just disappeared before.
No, she's never disappeared before. She would go, to the store, go shopping for a few hours without anybody knowing where she was. But, that's kind of normal. But nothing like this. Nothing.
What brought her to New Orleans? I mean, you can only guess because you haven't talked to her, and it's about 400 miles away from you, right? You're outside of Houston.
Yes, ma'am. So,
but it took much longer than, let's say, 6, 7, 8 hours for her to get there.
Right. So we don't really know why she's in Northern. Now, Michelle is from Louisiana. So she grew up in Natchitoches, Louisiana, which is the north side of Louisiana, northern Louisiana. But we don't have any family or friends or spend any time in New Orleans. My personal opinion is that she went for a drive and she headed east on I-10, and she recognized New Orleans on a sign and pulled over. I don't know why she's in New Orleans, or was in New Orleans, or is in New Orleans. There's no way to tell.
Excuse me. So when we were talking yesterday, we also mentioned there's different areas where people park their trucks. And I mean like the big trucks, guys, the ones that bring food. So we need to start sharing this to Truckers Against Trafficking, different trucking groups, that if she had maybe gotten a ride with someone, like an owner-operator, it wouldn't be a company driver, that maybe had taken her somewhere else because the trail has gone cold.
Yeah, that's correct. When she went east on Calliope Street underneath the bridge and turned right on Chapatoulas, which is south, there's an area where truckers park and spend the night or rest during the day or night. There's always trucks there. And that's really close to where she was headed down Chapatoulas Street. And, one of our thoughts is that, well, maybe someone noticed that she was having disoriented. She's having some issues, and they helped her out. She may have asked for a ride and went east on I-10 maybe. But I think it would be local trucks because, if you're traveling down I-10, if you're going from, say, Texas to Florida, you wouldn't go south, right, on 10 to go to New Orleans, then come back up. You'd come straight across on 12, which is on top of Lake Pontchartrain, right? So I think if she did get in a truck at that location, it would have to be someone who delivered a load to New Orleans or was leaving with a load from New Orleans. Because it wouldn't make any sense. Truckers don't go out of their way to take a longer path to get to their destination. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, unless their truck just can't get there, they'll go a longer way for an easier accessible, because they're not in a car.
Right. Well, going through New Orleans is is kind of a pain going through, I-10 to 90, then back to 10, and, going through that traffic area. Just logically, if I was doing it, I would stay on Interstate 12 and go north of New Orleans. I wouldn't cut down south and go into New Orleans if I was if I was running a load to the east or west.
Okay, I put her flyer up again, and a common question, because we have awesome, caring people here. Whatever you can share, you're comfortable with, of course, is how are your children doing?
Well, they're confused. Obviously, they have some anger. It's the whole gambit of emotions, right? You're sad, you're concerned, you're confused, you're frustrated. You have all these ups and downs. My children are 18, 13, and 11. So my daughter, 18-year-old daughter, has been just working as much as possible. She dropped out of the school for the semester, and she's just working right now and helping the family, helping us deal with the situation. My 13-year-old has kind of opened up to a counselor. I do have them set up with counselors, and he's having a hard time. He doesn't really want to go to school. He's like, why can't I do my work at home and not have to answer all these questions and hear all the comments from people? And then my 11-year-old, he doesn't really want to face the possibilities of what happened to mama. So he's kind of suppressing his emotions about the situation. So I'm still working with him with counselors to get him to open up a little bit. We do have family friends that he's opened up a little bit to, but when all this is said and done, my priority, obviously, to find Michelle is number one, but my kids are also number one. So they need to come out the other end of this with that as healthy mentally as they possibly can. So that's what I'm really trying. I'm really concerned about them and how they're going to. I don't want this to be their story. I don't want this to be Michelle's story. I don't want this to be my story that Michelle went missing, and we're going to need some closure, and that will help everybody. But right now, if you let yourself, your mind can wander into some really dark places. So what I talk to my kids about is just try to stay in the present and just work. Try to keep your mind on what you're doing at the moment and try not to go down that path, which is hard to do for an 11-year-old or a 13-year-old, right?
It's impossible for an adult to do.
All right. So I try to compartmentalize it and try to stay busy as possible and stay in the present, but it always leaks in. I mean, it's,
Is Michelle aware? Because some people aren't. I had a question in here. Is she aware that she has an illness?
She is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, she'll come to me and say, something's not right. I'm not feeling right. I'm feeling like this. And she was very open. We're very open about it with our family about what's going on. And it comes to a point, right? At some point she would realize what was going on. But there have been cases where she wasn't connected to her thoughts like she normally is. And when that psychosis kicks in and that paranoia kicks in, that changes everything.
Okay, so before we close it down, because I know you have a class coming up. He's not in school; he teaches school.
Yeah.
Going forward, what do you need all of us to do?
I just want to keep the story going. One thing, you have the picture up here. Michelle's not going to look like that, right? If you see the picture in the upper right-hand corner, like you referenced earlier, that was on the 24th. So we're looking over a month. So we're looking about 5 weeks past that picture. So her brown roots have been growing out. So her hair is going to be darker. Her clothes have probably changed as well. The sandals that she's wearing, they're not going to last very long. Those are just cheap flip-flops that she likes to wear. So she's going to look different than the pretty lady who's the sixth grade English teacher. She'll probably have her hair up. Like we discussed earlier, it's going to be a behavioral thing. Someone's going to have to notice that this lady doesn't look like she belongs here. She looks like she's confused. She looks like she needs help. And it's going to take that, because I don't think if you see the picture, you wouldn't recognize Michelle from that picture on the street. It's a completely different person. So I would like just people to be aware of that. And, we're starting to kind of spread our search out a little bit towards the east. She still may be in New Orleans. New Orleans is a tough place to search because the streets are tight. The French Quarter especially is a difficult place to look. But we've canvassed that so many times that we feel that either she's with somebody and they're helping her, maybe in a halfway house or something, that or she may have gotten into a truck or hitched a ride somewhere else. But what we're trying to do is just keep her story out there, and keep her picture out there, and keep the situation out there to ensure her safety, and hopefully we can bring her home safe.
And that's the main goal. So guys, share this live on your socials, your groups. I mean, I know there's groups are normally specific for a case, but if it's a group where, well, you be the judge. You guys are in the groups, not me. And we have a group for Michelle. So come running. We're going to let Michael get on with his day. This is not the last conversation we're going to have with him, because we're going to keep this going and really get it out there. Okay, guys? They'll do it. Trust me.
Hey, I just want to say thank y'all very much. Brooks, thank you very much for reaching out. And I appreciate everybody's encouragement and prayers and involvement in helping us find Michelle. And I just wanted to say thank you very much for that. We really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Michael, and have a great day. And when you're on a break, just send me a text or something, and I'll let you know the feedback and like ideas that people have, what we can do to move forward. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
We're definitely here for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Oh, Snow, exactly. Snow said, we got your back. We got your back. He certainly came to the right place. You guys amaze me every day. Every day, because like I say it every day. You are the best chat and best community on YouTube. You are. This guy really is doing everything he can to get his wife home. And it's under incredible circumstances. Incredible. So going to be back here, guys. Another heartbreaking case that is become more of a mystery than it was when we first heard about it. And we're going to be discussing Debbie Collier in a couple of hours. So y'all hit that reminder, come back. Anything I hear from Michael, I'll share with you guys, and we'll get a time, because I know there were several questions in here that I didn't get a chance to put up for him because I knew we were limited on time. So start, remembering those questions, new questions, whatever. And when he comes back, we'll make sure that he can go through your questions, your ideas, and we're all going to put our heads together to try to help him as much as we can. I will post her flyer in the Crime Lines and Lies Facebook group. It should be pinned, but I'll go ahead and I'll put it in there again. The Discord, of course, on the community tab. And in the meantime, you guys just keep being you, because you're awesome. I'll see you back here in a couple hours. Thanks.